Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take, quite a bit of information usually, and really pull out the key insights for you. Today, we're looking at some really interesting market forecast data. We're focusing on a specific segment that's just, well, seeing some pretty explosive growth, the Global Beta Catenin Market. Our job today is to kind of navigate these numbers, figure out what's driving them, and give you a bit of a shortcut to understanding this really vital area.
Yeah, absolutely. And the data we're using, it comes from an in-depth analysis by cognitive market research. What's really compelling, I think, is how these figures, they don't just show growth, They paint a clear picture of beta-catenin's growing importance in oncology and biomedical science. And just for context, beta-catenin, it's this critical protein. It's involved in cell signaling, cell adhesion, often pops up in cell development. And importantly, when its pathway goes wrong, it's implicated in, well, a lot of cancers. So understanding this market, it's really about understanding a key frontier in medical research.
Right. Okay, so let's unpack the big global picture first. This isn't exactly a tiny niche market, is it?
No, not at all. It was already valued at over $2 billion back in 2021. So a significant starting point.
Okay, 2 billion. But here's where it gets really interesting for me. The projections show this huge jump to nearly 2.9 billion by 2025. And then it almost doubles again, hitting close to $5.9 billion by 2033.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a compound annual growth rate, the CAGR, of 9.3%, which translates to solid, consistent growth, over 9% year on year on average.
Exactly. And that kind of growth, that sustained strong expansion, it's not just about the dollar value. It really underscores the increasing investment, the innovation happening in therapies and diagnostics that target beta-catenin. It signals, a really dynamic area, one that looks poised to deliver some pretty significant breakthroughs in how we understand and maybe treat diseases, especially cancer.
Okay, so massive growth overall. Let's
Yeah.
zoom in a bit. Where is this growth actually happening? Can we start with some of the biggest regions?
We can. And North America really stands out. It's a major powerhouse in this market. It's projected to grow from around, $870 million in 2021
Right.
to over $2.4 billion by 2033. That's a CAGR of nearly 8.9%.
It's still very strong.
Very strong. And the U.S., predictably, perhaps, is leading that charge, expected to reach almost $2 billion on its own by 2033. And, you might be wondering, what is it about North America that enables those kinds of numbers?
Yeah, that's a good question. What do the sources suggest drives that dominance? Is it R&D, investment?
Well, typically, yeah, it's a combination of things in North America. You've got that really robust R&D infrastructure, significant investment coming from big pharma and biotech companies. Plus, there's a relatively well-established regulatory pathway which helps support clinical trials, drug approvals, that sort of thing. It's just fertile ground for this kind of innovation.
Makes sense. Fertile ground. Okay. And then Europe. How does it compare? Hot on its heels, you said.
Pretty much. Europe's also showing really impressive expansion. The forecast there is hitting over $1.16 billion by 2033. And the CAGR is actually slightly higher than North America's, almost 9%.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Germany's leading the pack in Europe, projected around 250 million by 2033. Then you've got the UK, France following closely. But we're seeing consistent upward trends really across the board there. Italy, Spain, even smaller markets showing growth. It suggests, broad adoption of beta-catenin research across well-developed healthcare systems.
Okay, so strong, steady growth in these established markets. But you mentioned one region was really accelerating, the most exciting.
Absolutely. If you're looking for momentum, the Asia-Pacific region, or APAC, is really the standout. It's seeing the fastest growth globally by far.
Okay.
It's projected to soar from just over $450 million in 2021 to nearly $1.5 billion by 2033.
Wow, nearly $1 billion increase.
Exactly. And look at the CAGR, 10.355%. That's quite a lead over North America and Europe.
That is significant. And within APAC, which countries are really pushing that number up?
Well, China's a huge part of it, as you'd expect. Leading the charge, expected to reach nearly $490 million by 2033. But India shows truly remarkable growth. It actually...
This audio was created with podcastle.ai.
But India India shows truly remarkable growth. It actually has the highest individual country CAGR globally.
Really?
Yeah, over 11.3%. It's projected to hit about 212 million by 2033, up from just under 59 million in 2021. That's a massive jump.
Incredible growth rate.
It really is. And then you've also got Japan, South Korea, Australia, Southeast Asia. They're all contributing significantly too. This kind of explosive growth, especially in places like India, it often points to a few things happening at once.
Yeah.
Rapidly expanding healthcare infrastructure, maybe a rising prevalence of diseases that beta-catenin targets, like certain cancers,
And more investment.
and definitely increasing investment, both government and private, in biomedical research. It feels like that's where the growth story is really taking off right now.
Yeah, that kind of acceleration over 11% in India, that's definitely an aha moment for me. Okay, so APAC is the fastest growing. What about the other emerging regions? Are they part of this global expansion too?
They absolutely are. I mean, the numbers aren't as large in, absolute dollar terms, but their growth stories are still really significant. It reinforces how global this trend is.
Okay, like where?
Well, take South America. That market is set to more than double, reaching over $319 million by 2033, up from about $105 million. The TAGR there is strong too, 9.66%. And Brazil is leading the way, projected over 123 million.
Right.
Then you look at the Middle East, we're seeing growth from around 91 million up to over 270 million by 2033. That's a EAGR of 9.5%. Saudi Arabia and Turkey are big contributors there.
Okay.
And Africa too, showing robust growth from 83 million to over 233 million by 2033. The CAGR is a little lower, 8.26%, but still very solid growth. South Africa is the largest market there.
So it really does sound like beta-catenin is a truly global story. When you look at all these numbers, this spread across very different regions. What really stands out to you?
Well, I think it's exactly that. The universal nature of this growth. It just emphasizes how fundamentally important beta-catenin seems to be becoming in the scientific and medical community. And that's not limited by, geography or economic level. It's
Right.
clearly not just some niche interest. It feels much more like a foundational area for research, for therapeutic development, and it's finding applications pretty much everywhere. That broad, consistent expansion, it really suggests these beta-catenin pathways are proving critical across diverse populations, diverse healthcare settings. It's quite remarkable, actually.
Yeah, it really is. Okay, well, that nicely wraps up our deep dive into the global beta-catenin market for today. We've seen how this really vital segment in oncology and biomedical science is just booming across continents. The overall global value projected to nearly triple between 2021 and 2033. It's clearly, a field undergoing huge transformation and getting a lot of investment.
It really is. And that naturally leads to, I suppose, a final thought, maybe a question for you listeners to mull over. With this kind of dramatic market expansion, this intensified research and investment, what kind of new breakthroughs might be on the horizon? Could we see perhaps novel therapeutic uses beyond what's currently being explored? Or maybe entirely new diagnostic tools based on these beta-catenin pathways? It feels like a field that could genuinely redefine some treatment landscapes in the coming years. Definitely one worth watching.
Absolutely, a space to watch. And just a reminder, all the figures we discussed today were sourced directly from cognitive market research. Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive, and we'll catch you next time. Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take your sources, break them down, and pull out the key insights, all custom-made for you. Today, we're diving into, a really interesting area, the beta-catenin market. For anyone needing a quick primer, beta-catenin, it's this protein inside our cells. Think of it as part messenger, part builder. Super important for how cells, develop and work.
Absolutely. And this dive, it's potentially revolutionary. Beta-catenin isn't just important. It has these huge implications for cancer research, regenerative medicine, and really how we even think about creating targeted drugs. So our mission today, let's explore what's happening in this market, the key drivers pushing it forward, the roadblocks, and the really exciting trends we see shaping things for 2025 and looking further out.
Okay, so this molecule, beta-catenin, is clearly central to how cells operate. Let's unpack that. What's really propelling the market forward? What is it about its basic function that makes it so crucial?
Well, fundamentally, beta-catenin is, you could almost say, an architect of a cell's fate. It's a core piece of what's called the want signaling pathway. And that pathway, it's basically a master control system. It directs how cells talk to each other, how they grow, how they specialize. So understanding beta-catenin isn't just, academic curiosity. It's like finding a master switch for normal development, yes, but also for figuring out what goes wrong in a lot of diseases.
That makes sense, that foundational role. And with so much research focused on cancer, where exactly does beta-catenin fit in? I mean, why is it such a specific target compared to other areas?
That's a great question. The key thing isn't just that it's linked to cancer, it's that specific changes, mutations in beta catenin often act like like a stuck accelerator pedal for cell growth, uncontrolled growth. This makes it a surprisingly precise target, sometimes the most direct way to try and stop tumor growth, especially in things like colorectal and liver cancers. So it's not just related, it's often a direct cause, a direct mechanism to target.
Right, a direct mechanism.
Yeah.
That's a powerful difference. And I imagine the tools we have now, the molecular biology tools, must be playing a massive role. How are they changing the game here?
Oh, absolutely. They're opening up completely new ways to study this. Things like CRISPR gene editing, high throughput screening. These let researchers tinker with and watch beta catenin pathways with honestly unprecedented detail. It's like we've gone from using a hammer to using a laser.
This audio was created with podcastle.ai.
Unprecedented detail. It's like we've gone from using a hammer to using a laser. It just speeds up discovery and lets us ask questions we couldn't before.
Okay, and we also mentioned stem cells and regenerative medicine. That field's booming. How is beta-catenin pivotal there?
Yeah, it's critical. Beta catenin helps maintain what's called pluripotency in stem cells. That's their amazing ability to become basically any type of cell. And it also plays a role in directing how tissues regenerate. So it's really valuable for developing therapies that could quite literally help rebuild damaged parts of the body. It's pushing us towards actual repair.
So clearly, beta-catenin is this incredibly powerful molecule,
Yeah.
a powerhouse, like you said. But usually, with that kind of power, there are some serious challenges too, right? What's fascinating here is that even with all this promise, what would you say is maybe the biggest hurdle? The thing really holding us back from fully using its potential?
That's spot on, and it is fascinating. The major challenge, the real Achilles heel, is the lack of truly selective inhibitors. See, beta-catenin wears two hats. It's involved in that crucial cell signaling we talked about, and it helps cells stick together, cell adhesion. This makes it incredibly hard to target therapeutically for the signaling part without messing up its vital adhesion job in healthy cells. It's like trying to snip one specific thread in a really complex fabric without pulling the whole thing apart. That lack of precision, it seriously slows down getting treatments to patients.
That dual role problem sounds like a massive headache, a real catch-22. So, okay, beyond that inherent biological complexity, what about the practical side? Like the money and time involved in getting discoveries from the lab bench to an actual treatment people can use.
Yeah, you've hit it. The cost. The sheer cost of R&D is, well, immense. Working on beta-catenin at this level needs long timelines, really expensive tech, and then when you do develop a potential drug, there's always a risk of off-target effects, the drug doing something unintended. That means more safety testing, more rigorous trials, which are incredibly expensive, and again, slow everything down. It adds a huge financial barrier.
Okay, so we've got the amazing potential, the big biological and financial hurdles. What does the future look like then? What are the trends you're seeing that are shaping where this field is heading?
Well, one really strong trend is the emergence of inhibitors targeting that whole 1-beta-catenin pathway. You see biopharma, biotech firms, they're pouring investment into finding small molecules, biologics, basically anything that can tweak this pathway, both for cancer and also for those regenerative medicine applications. It's a very active, very competitive area right now.
And it's not just about treatments, right? I'm hearing more about using beta-catenin for diagnostics too, like as a biomarker.
Exactly. There's a definite surge in using beta-catenin in biomarker discovery. It can potentially tell us a lot about prognosis in cancer, maybe even flag metabolic diseases earlier. It's becoming a kind of signpost, indicating what's happening deeper inside the body.
Okay, and what about personalization? That seems to be the buzzword everywhere in medicine.
Right, and this is maybe the game-changing trend here. Integrating beta-catenin into personalized medicine. Researchers can now identify specific beta-catenin mutations in an individual patient's tumor, and that opens the door to tailoring therapies specifically for that person's unique genetic situation. That's a massive step for precision medicine, making treatments potentially much, much more effective.
And underpinning all of this, I guess, is collaboration.
Definitely. We're seeing more and more crucial collaborations, partnerships between universities, research institutions, and pharmaceutical companies. These bring together the expertise and the resources needed to speed up discovery, develop better diagnostics, and ultimately create innovative treatments targeting beta-catenin. It really accelerates the whole process.
So to wrap up our dive today, We've explored beta-catenin's fundamental role, this kind of master switch in our cells. We've looked at the big challenges like developing those super-specific inhibitors without causing side effects and the high costs. And we've touched on these really exciting future trends, new inhibitors, biomarker discovery, personalized medicine, and these vital collaborations.
Indeed. Beta-catenin is definitely a molecule, a whole field to keep your eyes firmly fixed on. It's more than just a protein. It's really a frontier in biology and medicine.
So, thinking about all this, what really stands out to you? How does understanding something seemingly so fundamental like one protein pathway unlock such complex and potentially life-changing advances in how we might treat diseases like cancer down the road? Something to think about.
This audio was created with podcastle.ai